they have the control, but their minds is still set back in this passive, oppressive way. You see? And now they use the power wrongly because they don't respect money. They don't respect responsibility. They don't respect souls and people's lives and people's destiny and the pathway. They don't have that respect because for many generations they've been oppressed. And that's where the government is missing. It's okay to take them and allow them some privilege and allow them to come into managerial. But they forget that they haven't incited their minds. Okay? It's okay that slavery was abolished, but the people are still acting out slavery. Okay? People are still stuck in this limited box, and they treat one another accordingly. So when people want to grow and develop to bring better prosperity to the country on a whole, there's no one there because everybody's busy cutting one another's heads off. John the Baptist, this is the season of John the Baptist when he had his head cut off. All right? Because no one can grow, no one can develop. Each time here in England, I try to go forward, they give a severe punishment. Now they've taken the profession away. Yeah, the vicar says, no, you're not allowed to. I go to the Sunday school, no, you're not allowed to. When I was training, okay, when I came to do my ultrasound training, with the doctors, there's a section we have to study the abdomen, which is the liver, the kidneys. With the doctors, no trouble. They trained me so nicely. They allowed me to get hands-on practice. They spoke. They gave me some good teaching, and I passed that straight off. And then there was another section, obstetrics. I learned that for myself. I didn't have to depend on the sonographers. Okay, and I had a friend who was pregnant, and she'd come in and I'd practice. And I got that straight off. But the one where I had to depend on the sonographers, they would not allow me to have hands-on practice. So when the training took 18 months, I had to do it for 3 years. And the university had to step in and say, why isn't she getting this final module? Okay, and they had to admit they weren't allowing me any practice. She goes, well, she's got 6 weeks. If she doesn't, she'll have to start the whole university course again. And so within the 6 weeks, they allowed me, and I passed the exam. Okay, but it also delayed me because I hadn't done the obstetrics for such a long time that the memory was vain when I went to practice it, because a doctor say, keep your hands in the obstetrics. So I'd go across to where they're doing the baby scans, and the Asian people would chase me away. And can I tell you, it was the Asian people who were worse. They were worse than anybody else. They were the worst out of everybody. Yeah, the Asian people were worse at racism, worse at letting anybody get headways. And that was because they were afraid. They were afraid of the racism that they were receiving from the Europeans. And so they don't want to be seen to be on the side of brown-skinned people. They want to seem indifferent so that the racism wouldn't be pointed at them, you see. So England has to, what I am saying is that for England to rise, they've got to face where we are today. They've got to, but that's a curse, and they need deliverance. They need Moses to come through, and he did. He did come the other day, President Obama. Yes, he did. He's a Moses. He's able to set. So am I, actually. We're both able to set these people free, but they're not ready for us, and the Lord's not ready either. So until they can help the people, and that's by counseling, okay, to come out of this past mindset before the land can prosper, because we're coming into a season now where the soul calls. And if we read Mark chapter 3, and I'll just go over this. I'm taking a long time, I didn't really want to because I wanted to get on with the day. I've got so much to do for the day. And he entered into the synagogue, and there was a man there which had a withered hand, and they watched whether he would heal him, and on the Sabbath day, that they might accuse him. And he says unto the man which had the withered hand, stand forth. And he says unto them, is it lawful to do good on the Sabbath day? Anyway, let me move on. So, where is it? There was a madman who was at the tomb, and he called out to Jesus. Okay, so what I was saying, I can't find it now because I'm just trying to move on quickly with the reading. So basically, the madman at the tomb, if you read over Matthew, it's either chapter 2 or chapter 3, okay? And he called out the man at the tomb, the madman at the tomb, he called out to Jesus. And I interpreted that to be the soul. Okay, I interpreted that to be, it's chapter 5. And they came over unto the other side of the sea, and when he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs. And no man could bind him, no, not with chains, because he had been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broken in pieces, neither could any man tame him. And always night and day he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying out, and cutting himself with stone. But when he saw Jesus afar off, he ran and worshipped him. And so basically it's a prophecy saying that on the coming of the kingdom of heaven and God, the soul shall awaken, all right? And that's what's happening now. The soul is awakening, okay? And it's calling out to the kingdom of God. It's calling out to the coming of Jesus. So in this present situation, in order to get over all this dilemma of the economy, we have to acknowledge the soul. We have to acknowledge people. Okay, you have to put people first, put God first, because that's where we are. Our natural inheritance is in God. Okay, so have a look at what's happening in the bottom line. Yes, it's okay to take the working class and give them some privilege and say, hey, and you know why they're doing that? It's because people's minds are perking up with all this modern technology, which we call modern technology, computers and more so-called information is out there. You know, people are perking up a bit more, and they realize that they have to make some changes to be able to move forward in some format. So they're allowing the working class to have special privilege, like they can have managerial positions, but they're managing with a working class mind, a mind from hand to mouth. They don't really understand and appreciate the potential of money. They don't know how to work in the concept of tapping into money energy. So when they're dealing with people and they see somebody's growing, what do? They want to stop that person from growing. So now there's no potential money energy to work with. Yeah. So let me try and keep to the point here. In the workplace now, this is what I experienced. And in school and in the education system, I was not allowed to progress. I was not allowed to even make one step forward. I just about got the thing, and they gave me such a hard time over it. Even in the workplace, within the department working, okay, they're not even allowing you much girth. But let me be careful on that, because when I worked as a locum and I was sent here and there, okay, and they needed you, just, you know, there was times then, yes, you had the full say. But when I went and did a full-time permanent post, okay, they weren't allowing you to, you know, to get any say in anything. You had no say. Your mouth had to be quiet. When you sat in the tea room, you weren't even allowed to join in the conversations with the staff. So you couldn't even develop your conversation. So I would sit there like a mute. Don't ask me to make a conversation. I've come a long way in being able to converse with you. Can I tell you that? There was a time I couldn't say anything. I didn't know what to say because I wasn't allowed to say anything. Okay, so now they've had people in this way for many generations, and it's the parents that's bringing us up, and it's the society that we're mingled in. They give you the privilege, and they give certain people the privilege of having this managerial. And I'm telling you, I'll go to the job center there, okay, and the way that they treat and talk to me is deplorable. They don't know the great potential that lies within me, that I can contribute to the English society. That, can I tell you, England doesn't need to be in the position that it is in. England can be way, way at the top there. They can be they have the potential. And I see greater. I'm not even going to tell you the potential of England. Let them suffer, mate. Let them suffer. The Lord says it's good enough to let this country sink. That's what the Lord said the other day to me. He said it's good enough to let England sink. Because England has good potentials. So the Lord is good enough to let it sink. Okay, so the people now, they get their managerial position and they're handling the lives of the people. I'm in the workplace, in the last work there now. I'm doing the work. I'm doing the work. Okay, but we're all at different hands. We've all got different work practices because we've come from different workplaces. So we need to be unified in this particular work practice. The manager, she was agent, who was supervising us. We had regular staff meetings every week, and that was the time that she should have got us all together, have us revise the work of the week. So we should look at each other's work, okay, and come into a common knowledge and grow and develop and have us unified. She was afraid. She's afraid of the people. She's afraid of the white people. So so she took it out on me and went to all the negative people in the workplace and write a story on me, cost the hospital a whole load of money to prove a case against me that wasn't even true. Okay, that was a whole waste of money. It was a waste of money to hire me because she went through an agency. It was a waste of money for the few months that they spent to orientate me. It was a waste of money to go and get negative reports from the people, and a waste of money what they took to take me off the profession. I mean, and I'm sure I'm not the only person. I'm sure they do that often. So that there you go. There's the answer there. You know, all these people, and just the day's work is a challenge to get through. The healthcare assistants don't want to listen to you because you have a higher qualification and your skin is black. You tell them, hey, please, can you just pass me this? They walk off. They don't want to work with you. Yeah, they're telling you what to do. They haven't got the qualifications and the knowledge. They think they have the right to tell you what to do, and they have the right to go and put in a complaint on you, and they don't even understand your work. It's because they've been there for a while. You see? So until these areas can be addressed, before really people can go forward and the country can be prosperous. So that's what I'm saying is that the mind, the intelligence of the mind. And when I was reading what I wrote in 2000, 2003, 2004, I read where I wrote that the Lord is dismayed over the mind of humanity, and he's calling for us to come higher in intelligence, because the mind is causing us to come into our own fatality. The mind is causing the community, the systems, to come into disrupt, into failure. And the Lord was saying, I am using you as my messenger to go and put them on the right course. That's why I have to be listening. In the 2 o'clock, the Lord woke me up. Switch on your telly and listen to this conversation here. I told you to go forward. Right? I said, Lord, I've paid. I've paid. You've made me pay big time. Yeah. So this is what I'm talking about, the mind, that you know, those who are governing us, it's okay to give. And can I tell you, somehow they know it too, you know. They're not daft. They're not daft because they've got all the statistics. They've studied. They've gone into high-profile studying. They know about neuroscience. They know about the science of the mind. They know people's behavior. They know the behavior of people on a social level. So they know all this, but it's part of the plot to keep people down so that they can govern. You see, and this is what the Lord is saying through the prophet of Jeremiah. He's saying that those who offend, I will cause evil. That means they won't know God. They won't know God, and they won't progress. They cannot progress unless they start to acknowledge God, unless they start to acknowledge the soul and the person. Then they can rise higher. Okay? So now address the working class people. Address those who've been used to being so oppressed and passive. Yes, you can give them a privilege of being a manager, but they're more destructive. It's like letting a child go and drive a car, and that's what they're doing, because the country cannot rise. The country don't, and there is so much goodness here in England, so much goodness. I'm looking around and I'm seeing the geography of the land and that, and I know, I know. I know it. But hey, let them go down. You know, the Lord